There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, but from pain. You know the one I'm talking about, the silence when you're surrounded by people but still feel completely invisible. If you've ever laid awake at night wondering if anyone would notice if you disappeared, this message is for you, because you're not alone. And what you're feeling right now could be the beginning of everything changing. There's something about the feeling of being alone that weighs heavier than most people realize. It's not always about being by yourself physically. It's the kind of silence that echoes deep inside you. You could be surrounded by people, scrolling through your phone, hearing the noise of the world, and still feel completely invisible. I've been there. Maybe you have too. It's in those quiet moments when no one's calling, when the room feels colder, and when your thoughts get a little too loud, that you begin to wonder, does anyone really see me? Does anyone really care? And in those moments, it's easy to believe that you're the only one feeling this way. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. Feeling alone doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. The world we live in today is noisy, fast, and full of distractions, but not always. Full of connection. And if you're feeling isolated right now, I want you to know it's okay. You're not alone in feeling alone. So many people carry that same weight in silence, putting on smiles in the day and carrying sadness into the night. But here's what I've learned. Loneliness can become a powerful teacher. You start noticing things. You start hearing your own thoughts clearer. You begin to understand what you truly value, and sometimes you even find the courage to change. You see, it's often in those seasons of solitude that people begin to grow. It's in that stillness where strength begins to take root, if you let it. When there's no one to impress, no one to perform for, and nothing but your own reflection staring back at you, that's where you get honest. That's where you find your truth. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, I'm saying it's worth it. Because the pain of being alone, when faced with patience and a shift in perspective, becomes a path, not a prison. It becomes a process of becoming. Instead of asking, why am I alone? Start asking, what can I learn here? Because if you can take that pain and put purpose behind it, suddenly it's not just something you're going through. It becomes something you're growing through. I want to remind you that being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Sometimes being alone is the reset your soul has been craving. It's the space between the noise where clarity lives. And what's amazing is, once you start to find peace in your own company, everything else starts to change. You become stronger. You stop settling for half-hearted friendships and shallow connections. You begin to attract people who are drawn to your strength, your energy, your light, not your need for validation. And when that happens, something powerful takes place. You're no longer chasing people. You're not begging for attention. You're standing firmly rooted in the truth of who you are. And from that place, loneliness starts to fade. Not because you filled your life with people, but because you finally filled it with you. The real you. The you that was waiting underneath the noise all along. So if you're feeling alone right now, don't rush to escape it. Sit with it. Listen to what it's telling you, and know this: what you're going through is shaping who you're becoming. And who you're becoming is someone worth knowing, someone worth trusting, someone worth loving. And that someone is you. Let me talk to you for a moment. Not to a crowd, not to an audience, just you. Because sometimes that's all a person needs. Not noise, not advice, not even a solution. Just someone to talk directly to them. You see, we live in a world full of voices, opinions, endless scrolling, constant comparisons, and yet so many people feel like nobody's really talking to them. And that's why this message, this moment, is for you. Not for your neighbor, not for the person who shared the video, not for someone out there. For you, the one who maybe needed to hear something real today. When you feel alone, the hardest part isn't just the silence. It's the sense that no one notices, that you're walking through life unseen, that you could disappear for a week, and no one would blink. That's a hard feeling, and it sneaks in quietly, doesn't it? It doesn't make a loud entrance. It just settles in over time, in the quiet spaces between conversations, in the long gaps between messages, in the days when your phone lights up. But it's just another notification that doesn't really matter. But you matter. That's not just something I'm saying to sound kind. That's the truth. You matter. because no one else can be you. No one else has your mind, your heart, your fingerprints, your voice. And the reason that matters is because even if the world hasn't shown up to tell you that lately, your value isn't based on their recognition. It's based on your existence. The fact that you're here, breathing, thinking, listening, that's already proof that you're necessary. You know what the world has forgotten how to do. It's forgotten how to look someone in the eyes and say, "Hey, I see you." Not just glance, not just wave, really see. Because being seen is what makes a person feel connected. And you might be feeling alone right now because somewhere along the way, people stopped seeing you. They saw what you do, they saw what you post, they saw what they expected, but they stopped seeing you. And that can make the heart ache in ways most people won't understand. But here's what I want you to hear clearly. The moment you start seeing you, everything changes. The moment you sit with yourself and say, "I matter whether anyone claps for me or not, I matter," that's when loneliness starts to lose its grip. That's when you stop waiting for someone else to validate your presence and you start validating it yourself. It's a powerful thing to shift from needing attention to offering yourself attention, from begging for company to enjoying your own. And when you do that, people start noticing something different about you. You're not reaching out from emptiness. You're connecting from wholeness. You're not desperate. You're deliberate. You're not invisible. You're powerful because you've become someone who sees yourself, and that changes everything. And here's what's beautiful. When you begin to live that way, the right people begin to notice. The ones who are meant to walk with you. Not because you cried loud enough, not because you proved yourself, but because they recognize in you something real, something grounded, something whole. And from that place, connection flows naturally, authentically, not rushed, not forced, not desperate, just real. So if you've been feeling invisible, if you've been wondering if anyone sees you, start by seeing yourself. Start by speaking to yourself with the kindness you've been waiting to hear. And remember, sometimes the most important message isn't shouted from a stage, it's whispered straight to the heart, just like this one is. Have you ever noticed how powerful just a few words can be when you're in a tough place? When someone says, "You're not alone," and you feel like they mean it, it hits different. There's something healing in knowing someone out there understands, even if they don't have all the answers. That's why a message like, "Watch this if you feel alone," can stop someone in their tracks, because it doesn't just offer content, it offers connection. It's like a voice reaching through the noise, gently saying, "Hey, this one's for you." And when you're in that space of loneliness, sometimes all you're really craving is to feel understood, not fixed, not analyzed, just heard, just seen. When a message speaks directly to the feeling you've been trying to make sense of, suddenly you feel less invisible, less out of place. That's the power of words when they come from a place of compassion. And when they reach the heart instead of just the ears, they don't just change your mood, they can change your direction. See, most of the world is busy trying to entertain, trying to impress, trying to shout louder. But the real difference happens when someone speaks softly to the parts of you that hurt. When someone says, "I see you, I've been there, you matter." That's when people lean in. That's when hearts start to open. And sometimes that's all it takes to plant a seed of hope. What's interesting is that this kind of message doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be long or loud. It just needs to be real. When you speak to someone from the place of your own experience, from your own stillness, your own pain, people can feel it. And that feeling, that is what creates a shift. Because no one needs more noise. They need truth. They need care. They need to be reminded that loneliness doesn't make them less human. It actually makes them more connected to what being human really means. And the beautiful thing about that connection is this. Once someone feels it, they start looking at themselves differently. They start believing even just a little that maybe things can change, that maybe they're not broken after all, that maybe there's someone out there who really gets it. And if that person made it through, maybe they can too. And that, my friend, is how lives begin to turn. Not with grand speeches or big gestures, but with a quiet whisper of hope. So if you're sitting there feeling alone, if you've been waiting for someone to understand, this is that moment. This is that voice, not telling you what to do, not trying to fix you, just reminding you, you matter. Your presence matters. Your story matters. And maybe you just needed to hear it, in the right way, at the right time, to believe it again. Words are powerful. But intentional words, words that see you where you are, can change everything. They can be the difference between giving up and holding on, between feeling invisible and feeling seen, between despair and the beginning of healing. And sometimes, that one moment of being truly seen is all it takes to begin again. The beautiful thing about moments of loneliness is that they can unlock some of the most honest parts of ourselves. And here's what's fascinating. When you start being real about how you feel, when you stop hiding behind the smiles and start telling the truth to yourself, the world begins to respond differently. You stop attracting noise and start drawing in people who recognize your depth. Because something changes when you stop pretending and start standing in your truth. You see, most people go through life trying to avoid being alone. They fill every space with distractions, every moment with noise, every silence with something, anything, to avoid sitting with themselves. But when you make peace with that silence, when you stop running from it, you begin to change. It's not about becoming perfect or having it all figured out. It's about becoming authentic, real, grounded, and when you start showing up like that, whole, not needing to be rescued, not chasing attention, that's when people take notice. That's when the energy you carry begins to shift. You're no longer trying to fit in. You're no longer bending to be accepted. You're simply being who you are, and the right people are drawn to that. Not because you're shouting the loudest, but because your stillness speaks louder than any performance ever could. It's one of life's quiet truths. When you stop needing people to complete you, you start connecting with people who complement you, not out of desperation, but out of alignment. You stop saying yes to things that drain you just so you won't feel alone, and you start choosing things that nourish you, even if it means walking a quieter path. And the incredible part? That's when life starts to open up. Because you are no longer waiting for someone else to bring you peace. You've already found it within. That's why the shift is so powerful. Because it's not about building a bigger life to escape loneliness. It's about building a deeper life so you can walk through it with strength. When you become the kind of person who values their own company, you stop being afraid of solitude. You see it for what it really is, a sacred space, a place where growth happens, where ideas are born, where clarity lives. So the question becomes, who are you becoming in those quiet moments? What are you learning about yourself? What standards are you raising because you finally know your worth? These are the questions that change everything. Because once you stop searching for someone else to validate you, you begin to attract people who respect you, who see you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. And that's the gift in all of this. The loneliness you're feeling isn't here to break you. It's here to shape you, to help you become the kind of person who stands strong, not because life is easy, but because your foundation is solid. And once you build that kind of foundation, everything else begins to shift. Your relationships, your energy, your peace. You stop chasing. You start attracting. And not just people, but opportunities, clarity, direction. So if you're in a season of feeling alone, know this isn't the end of something. It's the beginning. The beginning of you finding your voice, your value, your power, not in the presence of others, but in the presence of yourself. And when that happens, loneliness doesn't stand a chance.